Didn't even go to church, but I woke up feeling all blessed.
Fighters just want to fight. And all of you guys have got some kind of story.
Yeah, 100%.
So I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Nah,
I really
nah,
appreciate that.
nah. The thanks is the pleasure's all mine, and thank you because boxers need this every type of platform to spread their message and spread their awareness. So no, really
Yeah.
humbling.
Oh, awesome. I've got a little bit of information about only a tiny bit because I've been trying to look and see a little bit about yourself, but that will come from obviously our conversation and me trying to pull some information out of yourself.
Yeah.
You are a professional boxer.
Mm-hmm.
You're currently at 2-0, and you were born in Luton, but now you're
Mm-hmm.
Nottingham based. But
Yeah.
we're gonna pull that straight back. And I just want you to tell me about how you got involved in the sport of boxing.
That's a good question.
And to
That's a good
introduce
question.
yourself, for those that don't know
Yeah.
you, tell us who you
Well,
are and how you got involved in the sport.
for those that don't know me, I'm Josh the Diamond Goodin. The diamond stands for the three diamonds that's on the Vincentian flag. That's the flag of my mother's birthplace.
Oh.
So that's the reason why I call myself the diamond, because it has an actual meaning to myself. And I mean, I was raised by a single parent, my mother, and I'm proud to be British. But I was raised the West Indian way. I was raised as a Vincentian child, so in Britain. So I got the best of both worlds. So the diamond really represents my heritage of St Vincent, and also can represent a lot of the heritage around England and how Afro-Caribbeans got to the colonial islands in the Caribbean, which was first diamond mining in Africa, taking slaves across Africa, from Africa to the Caribbean islands, then full circle background during the Windrush, which is the 1940s, which then brought my grandfather to the UK, and then my mother came over in the 1970s from St Vincent at about 16 years old, then popped me out. So it's a bit of history behind my name. So my name it isn't just a throwaway name. It has meaning. One day it'll be a tattoo, maybe. My skin's untouched at the minute, but I think we'll get a tattoo with a diamond on it and a mango tree, because yesterday was a year today which buried my grandfather. My grandfather was known for always giving. Anytime any of the grandchildren would go across to St Vincent, always giving them mangoes. Now, what we always would say was the mango was reaping the fruit of his labor. So he would always give us the mango to reap the fruits of his labor, his hard work generationally. But it's not the fruit we was enjoying. It was the seed that he planted for us to grow beyond. So mango tree and a diamond are two of the tattoos I'm going to get.
No,
but yeah, so...
No, I like that because that gives a bit of a substance on why you give yourself the name, just like you asking October Red. Everyone's got a reason for why they choose. You know, we're given a name at birth. Our parents give us that name. You know, we have a surname, we have a birth certificate. We go through life, we have experiences, we get told stories, and certain things stick with us, and then we make those choices. So it's good that you've actually told us about the significance behind the diamond. I love that stuff, and that's really good to know.
How did I get into boxing? So I gave you my name, Josh the Diamond Good, and how I got into boxing. Well, I was always a competitor. Like me and my mum has actually came over from the islands in December. She's spending a few months with me, and we was going back through some old photos, and we got on a photo where she took me to France, Disneyland Paris or something.
Yeah.
And I was so competitive with her at the age of 6. I just wanted to beat, and I wouldn't stop on this one laser gun ride until I beat her. And I tried until I beat her, and that's me. That has always been me from birth. It's a competition, whatever it is. Like anyone at the gym will tell you that. Anyone at the gym say they can do more press ups than me. Well, all right, you better get down and give me press ups. ups, because we'll go now. Like, I don't care if I've done a whole session and you're coming in fresh in your session. I'm gonna beat you, and that's just been my makeup. So it started off with football. I played football to a reasonably high level. I trialled nationally for the England schoolboy team, but I was never the most talented. And this is one thing I always want to touch upon. And I'm doing a speech at my old college next week.
Yeah,
I was never the most talented, but I was always the most appreciated, because no one would outwork me. No one would outwork me. And no one would be as competitive as me. And if you put that one into a team environment, but then you take that philosophy into any activity that you want to partake in, you give yourself the opportunity for success. Success is never guaranteed, but you give yourself the opportunity for success. And so I progressed fairly well in football, but I always wanted to box. And as I was mentioning about my mother, she would never let me box. She said, she's a traditional West Indian mother. She's mellowed in her old age,
as they do.
The old part, but a strong woman, and her woman was her voice was in her house. There can't be two bulls under one roof. You do what I say under my roof. And that was, you are not allowed to box, because you're not allowed to box whilst under my roof. So as soon as I hit 19, I left home, and I boxed. And it was always a passion of mine. I was always getting fights in school, and I always wanted to box, but I never had that opportunity until my late adolescence, early adulthood. So I came into boxing late. I never actually competed until I was 23 years old. I had about a 3-year hiatus from boxing. Learned a few of the basics at about 19, then come back at around 22, 23, where I was actually in Nottingham and found Errol McDonald, who's my manager now, my coach at Bad Boys Boxing Gym. And that's where it really started. So I came in late into the game, but I took the philosophy that I've always had, is no one will outwork me, and no one will be as competitive as me. And whatever happens from there, it's in God's hands. But I will give myself every opportunity to be successful. And if God grants me that success and success in the boxing ring, and he deems that beneficial for me and my family, then that is so be it.
Yeah. Take me back to when you were a kid, and like you said, under your mum's roof, and mum said, you ain't boxing while you live under this roof. What was mum's concerns about you getting involved in the sport of boxing, apart from the obvious?
And I think it is really the obvious. My mum, I don't know my biological father, but there's as I've grown older, I became more at tune with it. So I have jokes with my mum now, because there's a famous back around 1993, which was the year I was born, of her and Lennox Lewis, and I joke with her and I say, is he my dad? And I have to send that photo over, because I always joke about it. I was like, you sure he's not my dad, mum?
So mum was keen in boxing as well then?
She liked boxing. She was interested in boxing, a casual fan, but interested in it. Knew about Michael Watson, knew about Chris Eubank, and I think it's a number of those things back in the 80s, when the likes of the Michael Watson tragedy, the Gerald McLean. That was when my mother's interest in boxing was probably more profound. And so when it comes around to me boxing, and even though there's more procedures in place, the British Boxing Board of Control have better healthcare procedures, the boxers and coaches' duty of care is a lot higher. So it's a risky sport. We all know it's a risky sport, but I think my mother's concern was based upon the ideology of back in the 1980s, where safety. It was safety was paramount. And it's a different era of boxing now. It's a different era of boxing. I don't know how to explain it, but the best way to explain it is how Mike Tyson did. Back in his era, they were killers. Now it's about the business. And now, and I'm understanding that now. You don't have to be the best boxer to get the best opportunities. We're seeing that now. Like you have to, closed mouths don't get fed. That was said to me by a friend of mine a few months ago. That really opened up my eyes. I was so busy like honing my skills and beating off on my graft.
Yeah.
That I wasn't concentrating on opening my mouth and getting out there to promoters.
Yeah.
And I was thinking it would just come round. But then I was realizing there was only a small amount of shows going on, televised shows, and those shows, they had talent on there that I knew I'd be able to beat.
Okay.
But why were they getting the shots and I weren't? And that's why I've just started opening my mouth a bit more and getting out there a bit more, because closed mouths do not get fed. Not in this sport. And if you want something, and actually I say not in this sport, but not in life. Like you can't hold anyone else responsible for your dreams other than yourself. And I'm noticing that even more and more as I mature with age. Like you can have a team around you, but if your team doesn't send that email, what are you going to do? Moan about it? Or are you going to send that email to a promoter?
So it's about that personal responsibility.
Exactly.
And taking accountability for your own actions to get you where you need to go.
Here's how it goes.
So you said you left home at 19, you went on a hiatus, but boxing called you back. You were 23 years old before, when you had your first, what type of fight was it? Amateur.
Amateur, yeah.
Talk to me about your first amateur fight.
Oh, man. So everything about my personality was expressed in that first fight.
Okay.
As an amateur.
Yeah.
So a lot of amateurs go into their first fight nervous.
Yep.
A lot of amateurs go into their first fight over anxious and maybe exert a lot of energy, too eager and rush all their work. One day I'll release my first fight footage, but I was so flamboyant. I rocked into the ring. I was so calm. I was doing the Eubank Senior walk around the ring, like looking around at the audience, and I learned everything I needed to do, everything good and bad about boxing in that first fight, because I gave my opponent a standing count in the first round. In the second round, I was on fire. I was just so relaxed. And then in the third round, because I was so relaxed and I was borderline arrogant, I got caught and I got put down.
Yeah.
It was lights out. But then I woke up. I'd done a Tyson Fury rise from the dead in the 12th round like he did against Deontay Wilder, and I managed to survive and win the fight.
Okay.
Then woke up 3 days later, or 2 days later, I should say, in Grimsby Hospital. I blanked out. I had concussion. I remember bits about it, and then it was a bit of a blur to me what happened since then. I've watched back the fight since. Can only remember sort of getting knocked down, and I just remember it. I can't remember being knocked down. All I remember was it going black, then the lights open again, and I don't remember being on the floor. I just remember seeing an opponent in front of me. Then I think the adrenaline got me through that, and once the adrenaline wore, and I suffered for about 3 months with what's called post-concussion syndrome.
Talk to me about that. Post-concussion syndrome.
So it's essentially like if you have a severe concussion, you essentially have the after effects of that concussion, because what concussion is a damage to the brain. Is a muscle, and it's the damage to the tissue on the brain.
Yeah.
And say if you have a soreness in your muscle, or you tear your bicep, you go through the recovery period, which is normally soreness, some inflammation. Well, the brain's going through that as well. However, the brain is also an organ that controls memory, that controls speech. It controls everything. So I was slurring my speech for a couple of months. So I was not badly, but it was just where I would try to say something like hello, and I was like hello, and it would take me a little bit to get it out. And then I'll just have little headaches come on, whatnot. And it's not as severe as it sounds, but it's definitely got to be monitored. So I learned a lot about boxing, and that's when I knew that was the biggest test for me. Like, do I carry on? at that time I was studying a PhD in sport and exercise science, so I had another route. It wasn't like I had another option, but this is the option I chose, and I just felt it was my calling. I felt boxing will be the platform that I can express not only myself, but that I can perpetuate like my ideologies of the world onto people and help more people than I could, like being a doctorate in a specific field.
That is really, really interesting, and I'm glad we touched on that. So you had said it took you a couple of months to recover.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after that? We talked about, first your mom saying, "I don't want you boxing. You're not boxing while you're under this roof." You go and have your first amateur fight, and then your mom's got to come and see you in hospital. Not well. You recover. It takes you a few months to recover. What happens after that? You're having a word with yourself. You're thinking, okay, I could do my uni work. I can qualify in this, but I'm going to go back to boxing. Talk to me about going back into boxing after, that post-concussion syndrome. Because that's the first time I've heard of it. You're educating me today.
That's good. But what made you think I told my mum? My mum was living in St. Vincent. No way did I tell her.
Right.
She knows. I'm looking around to see if she's going to come through the door. But no, she found out about it like a year or a couple years later. Afterwards. But no, I didn't tell really nobody. Only a few sort of select people knew what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
So I was trying to do my studies.
Yes.
And I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't physically do the work.
Wow.
So I ended up like I had a decision to make. Was it boxing or the academia? Because I couldn't mingle both. Not to that level. So it was to the point where in academia I was like right at the upper echelon PhD level, where you have to either take it really seriously. You can't like fuddle through it.
Yeah.
And so I chose boxing. I don't know why. Like why do I want to choose to get punched? But I just when you're passionate about something, when it's difficult.
Yeah.
And here's what I say to anyone: find out what you're passionate about, and how you know you're passionate about it is when it's difficult. Can you keep going?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's difficult and you keep choosing to go, that's what you're passionate about.
I like that.
It was just that.
So you recover then? How many more amateur bouts did you have after that one?
I only had like a lot of people sort of compare like my journey similar to that of Anthony Yards. I only had 12 amateur fights.
Yeah.
Won 10 of them. I progressed really quickly through the novice amateur ranks, won pretty much every title within that first 10 fights, 2 different weight divisions.
Yeah.
And then it just got to a point where I was 25 years old. Like, do I try and perpetuate on in the amateur ranks?
Yeah.
Missed out on competing in the ABAs. So like, do I wait another year for the ABAs, or do I turn professional and then learn my craft there? And it was just a decision. Okay, turn professional. Let's make some money from this.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you missed out on the ABAs. Why was that? It's all right if you don't want me to put it in here.
Partly my fault. No. Like it's got to be an open book, and it's partly my fault. It was. I was due to compete in the ABAs at 75 kilos. I fought me and my team, and that was middleweight. Me and my coach thought the ABAs was going to be at a date further away.
Yeah.
Ended up getting the wrong date, a date mix up. God knows, it will never happen again. You make a mistake once, it never happens again.
True.
I was too heavy. I was
okay.
I wouldn't say ill-disciplined, but I was trying to make weight on the week of the fight. Sparred with a young kid, like 18-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I was just so weak, and I got smashed to bits. That was just me trying to drain myself down on weight to make sure I was there for going to compete in the ABAs.
Yeah.
I got smashed to bits, and I still wasn't I was still 1.5 kilos off making weight.
Yeah.
So it was okay. I couldn't move. I was drained then. Imagine I've got to get another 1.5 kg down. Got to the Friday and I was like, I possibly could make this, but of the experience of what I had in my first fight,
You think
and I
of
would have been up
dehydration
against,
as well.
that's it. Like, and I would have been up against a good opponent. It wouldn't have been like an easy fight. Like, it would have been a fight where I would have had to take some shots and give some shots.
Yeah.
So I had to make. Well, I said we had to make a sensible decision of saying, like, Josh, never make this mistake again. Always be on weight, and be prepared just in case the date changes.
Yeah.
So I've taken that sort of into the pro ranks, especially during this pandemic period. Be on weight. Be ready.
Stay ready.
Stay ready.
Stay ready. It's the best bit of advice you can ever give anybody. Is just always stay on the ball. So you've moved through the amateur. Tell us about your trainer that you had in the amateur, and did you carry them into your professional career too?
Yeah, so Errol McDonald, like, I mean, he's pretty much like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
Like, he's the reason why I actually believed I could be a champion still. I mean, I'm 5'8". At the time, I was weighing around, like, when I stepped into the gym, around 90 kilos, 15 stone. He said, just get your weight down a little bit and we'll teach you how to win at that weight whilst you're getting your weight down to a more suitable weight at which you can fight at. I won a box cup title. I won a box cup, like, that's a national, international competition.
Yeah.
At 81 kilos, because he taught me. He said, because in the amateurs, it's about point scoring, and he taught me and made me believe that the assets that I have could win me a tournament at 81 kilos, and I did it. And he just instilled that belief in me. He said, no matter that you're smaller than these guys, you can outbox them. You've got quick feet, you've got quick hands, you can get in, you can get out, you can make people miss. I'm very elusive and I'm awkward. And it just made me believe and buy in to my style. And so, like, as soon as I won a novice title at 81 kilos, then won at middleweight. I was the first amateur to ever do that in the East Midlands, the Midlands itself, like win and hold 2 titles at once. And it was just like, okay, well, you've had some tests and you fought some good opposition. Should we do it? And then we turned professional. Errol McDonald himself, he was one of the most esteemed amateur champions in his day. He won 24 fights as an amateur. Well, he had 24, won 24, turned professional, won 24 or 25 fights as a professional. So he went 50 fights unbeaten before he ever lost, and that was for a European title, and it was a disqualification. So he was a very esteemed professional and amateur, and so he's pretty much taught me everything I know to this day. And I also got another coach called Derek. We call him Derek Super Coach. He's more like the young generation. So we've got the older, I should say, the wise man, and his young apprentice who brings all the more modern techniques that we also we need in order to move with the times. So they're my 2 coaches, and Derek was also a fighter at the club. And he was a amateur champion himself, so he brings a lot of good knowledge and experience, and he just brings that sort of youthful vibrance to the team.
So tell us about the relationship that you have with your coaches, because you've mentioned that Errol's like a father figure to you. Talk to me about that relationship you have with him, the trust.
It's
all about that.
It's frustrating. It's like a family. And when I say it's frustrating, it's because you can log heads with your family, but you always know that you're never going to know. You always know that they've got the best interest, and sometimes that's the frustrating element. I want to sometimes run before I can walk, but he wants to hold me back, and as much it's a real paradox, because as much as I want to go forward, he wants to hold me back for the best ways. But at the same time, there's some managers out there, there's some promoters out there would just put me in certain fights, because obviously their pockets get made. But he's not worried about that. At the same time, it's like I want to propel myself on. So like we come at loggerheads, and but we always get through it. But I always know he's got my best interest at heart, and that's really important for me. It is really, really important because especially in this game where it's commercially driven. It's not like the amateurs, and there's no problem. It's a business. Boxing is a business. We understand it's commercially driven, and you can't hate people for it. You just got to understand it. Like, boxing isn't free. Like, we get paid, like boxers get paid for it, the promoters get paid for it, management get paid for it, and everyone wants to increase their money. And sometimes people don't care if they shit on other people in order to get their money. Like, you've just got to be more, you just got to be more cognizant about that, be more understanding about that, and surround yourself by good people. So it's like, like, we have a great relationship. When I say it's frustrating, I joke because it's a family relationship, but a great relationship with Errol, because like, in and outside of boxing, he'll help me out, he'll give me advice, like, and so like, yeah, like, I'm loyal to Errol and he's loyal to me, and so there's been offers elsewhere, and possibly bigger offers, but if Errol's not involved, then it may not work. Errol's got to be involved in some way, or like always, and his partner Janet, like they come as a duo. So yeah, strong relationship with those two.
Strong relationship. How long has that relationship been with you and your coach?
Yeah, about 5 years now. So really, like, when I moved back up, I practically moved to Nottingham to box with Errol.
Right.
So I probably would have moved back to Luton. I was only going to be in Nottingham for a short period, a few years while studying, and then I was going to move back to Luton. Like, Luton is home. Like, I'm there pretty much every weekend anyway.
Okay.
But it's almost like I'm up here for work, and then Luton's my hometown. So, but yeah, Errol and Janet, like, I've known them for about 5 years now, and yeah, real good people.
So what advice then would you give to an aspiring young fighter that's, looking to turn over pro? And like you said, sometimes the relationship with the coach, you can go at loggerheads, and your coach has had to pull you back in and say, hold on a minute, Josh, we're going to do a bit of walking before you run off down the road. What advice would you give to fighters that seemed frustrated because they feel like they're being held back, but they can't see that it's for their benefit?
It's difficult, and that's a really, really good question, and it's really profound, because it's like, if you're in a relationship, like with a partner, and if you're talking about the strength of love, and what love is, right? So you can sometimes fall out of love with your partner, and it can sometimes be difficult. But then if you go elsewhere and you break up with that partner, there's no guarantee that the grass is going to be greener. So why not slug it out with that partner that that you already love, and then that you've got a good relationship with? Why don't you just find out how you can make that work? And that's ultimately what I would say. Find out till you make it work. Sometimes it might not be right, and sometimes the grass may be greener.
Yeah.
But you've got to find out and give it every opportunity to work. And essentially, honesty is important.
Yeah.
But here's the most important thing, and it's the Invictus poem. And it goes this: out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud, but under the bludgeonings of fate, my head is bloodied but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years shall find me, and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, nor how tarred the punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul. So I'd say that to any aspiring athlete. You still have to be the master of your fate, and you have to be the captain of your soul. It's that personal responsibility. Whatever decision you make, like be honest with yourself, be honest with the people around you, and you take ownership for you. Don't look for any handouts. If something you're not happy with, you have to express that. Closed mouths don't get fed. You have to express that, and sometimes it's the hardest to express that to the people you love, and telling them, look, I'm not happy with this. But and that's something I really learned in 2020. Be the master of your fate, be the captain of your soul. Express that, and if things don't work, at least you have that personal accountability.
Yeah, 2020 has been an eye-opener for a lot of us. I think
100%.
everything was definitely as it was, but because we were moving around so quickly, we couldn't see it. You only start to see things true for what they are when you stop. And that's what 2020 did. It stopped us.
100%.
And then we were able
100%.
to actually look around and say, wow.
Yeah, it's true.
Not welcome to the land of make-believe, welcome to reality.
100%.
So yeah, I can definitely see you on that one. So then you make the decision and you turn over to be a pro boxer. Tell us about your journey so far, the ups and the downs of being a pro boxer, because we know it's not an easy ride. We know that sometimes it may feel as if your face fits because of the political side of it, because of the networking, because of who you know. So tell me about Josh Gooding and his journey into the pro game.
I just want to touch upon the networking and who you know. And I'm never in the business of making excuses. Like I said, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So here's what it is. To anybody in any walk of life, if we say it's an industry of it's who you know, well, guess what? Get to know more people. And that's what I'm saying to people. So if I talk about now the ups and downs, I mean, the most beautiful moment of my sporting career, if I can call it that as such, in the most humble of respects, because I can't really announce myself as a career until I've achieved anything, and that's my own personal ideology. But if I talk about it in that scope, was my professional debut, and I don't think anything could ever top that. I made so many people proud, and ultimately I made myself proud. At the age of 12 years old, I was driving in a car with my mother and a friend of hers, and I remember saying to her friend, when I asked my mum if I can box at 12 years old, I said to him, "I'll be a professional boxer one day." And my mum said again, "Not under my roof." And this gentleman said, he goes, "I think you will be." And I always remember that, because it took me a lot to get to the position to make myself believe I could do it. And that's the hardest thing for anyone doing anything. Having the hurdle is getting started and honestly believing you can do it. And so it was just such a proud moment. My mother was there. She was over from St. Vincent. I had a cousin that flew all the way from St. Vincent via France to come and watch me fight. I had the family and friends, and we packed out Nottingham. The fight was in Nottingham. I'm an adopted citizen of Nottingham, but I'm a Luton boy, and everyone came up from here far. And Luton, we've got family in London, High Wycombe, Reading. They all came up to watch me, and it was just a really proud moment of mine. And that was the biggest high. And then reality sets in a few months later. You've got to fight again. And you've got to pay your opponent, because that's how it works. If you're on a small hall show, you have to pay your opponent. You have to pay a promoter. You have to get money. So I was having to work full time. I was having a stressful job. You have life struggles that you have to. I was essentially doing 2 full-time jobs. I was trying to be a full-time professional and trying to be but professional wasn't getting me much money. But like my full-time job, it was. And I had to put myself in position. I mean, I mentioned I'm a kid from a council estate. My mother done phenomenal with me. I wanted for nothing, and I will never ever say that I had the hardest childhood growing up. But what I did have, I didn't have the hardest, but I didn't have the easiest, and it wasn't easy. So. I mean, I'm now responsible for my mum. My mum wants to retire and live happy. So I take and like my mum's never put that responsibility on me. I feel that as a child that's been nurtured by a good parent, a great mother. So I now feel that pressure as like I've got to make sure that she's happy, that she gets as much as that I can give back to her.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got to achieve my goals at the same time. And you feel that pressure, and that's ultimately why I had a full-time job as well. Because if it was just for me, I would just box full time, and I don't care about the money. Like, I'm not in this for the money. The money will come. The only reason I want to fight now to get paid is so I could just live, so I don't have to go back to work. Towards and what 2020 did, so this was 2019, I had my second fight. 2020 come, and it was a difficult year. My granddad passed away at the start of the year. I was then due to fight in March, just before the lockdown. I tore my calf, fully ruptured, so I couldn't fight, and I would have managed to had a fight in 2020 because it was just the week before the lockdown. Then lockdown happened. Then what you realize is this: you are the master of your fate, you are the captain of your soul. And this is why I live and die by that saying. 2020 showed me that no one will how do I say this?
What, rescue you?
No one will rescue you, and no one will want your dream as much as you. No one will do for you as much as you. So I had 2020 was the real graft. Like my job was coming to a point where I didn't want to be there particularly. Like, I mean, they treated me good. It was a good company to work for, but I wanted to box full time because I wanted to hone my skills. And then I got the opportunity to essentially go full time because, I mean, they essentially forced that upon me by making me redundant. And it was a scary period, but like I didn't look at it. I looked at it as an opportunity to develop more. And that's when I realized, okay, well, you can sit back and be quiet, or you can open your mouth and start becoming more active on social media, start getting more proactive, start going and making a name for yourself elsewhere in other gyms, and taking myself solely accountable for my boxing career, because it's all or nothing now. When the Greeks went over to invade the Trojans, you know what they did?
Tell me.
They burned all their ships so they couldn't get back home. Why? Because they either had to win or they'll die. So that's my philosophy now. I have to win or I die. And that's the real ups and downs, and you have to play the game. And the game in pro boxing is you have to open your mouth. Unless if you come from a huge amateur pedigree, GB podium squad, and you get fast tracked via Matchroom or Frank Warren, which, look, they done their hard graft in the amateurs and they earned where they got to, and it's not hating on those. But if you're not one of those, well, guess what? You got to open your mouth. You got to show people what you're about, and you got to show people that, and you got to show the promoters. So you got to show the fans that you're good enough to entertain. And then you've got to show the promoters that as well, so they buy into your dream. And then ultimately you have the proofs in the pudding. That's right. So that's the ups and downs of being a professional, and that's the ups and downs that I felt. But I'm positive. I'm a master of my fate and the captain of my soul.
Now I like that. You've got you're a fighter by mindset. And I really, really hope that pushes you to where you need to go in your career. You've had it's been a little bit of a bumpy road, but you've kept going in a sport that maybe you could have stopped after that debut on the amateurs, but you said, no,
that's right.
I'm going to carry on. This is what I want to do. And it's that warrior mentality. I often speak about fighters, and we'll come on to your style of fighting. This has been more of like a philosophical conversation rather than a conversation about boxing.
I'm a Pisces, deeply philosophical.
Oh, well, there you go then. So is that your birthday coming up in a bit then?
No, coming up in a bit, March the 8th.
March. To me, there's boxers, there's fighters, and there's warriors, and the best, you'll get all three. You've got quite a strong warrior mindset, so I do believe that you will push and get to where you need to go. So in relation to your career, where it is this far, and what you're hoping to achieve, in 2021 as the BBFC have kindly announced that the doors are back open for British boxing. What are your hopes and aspirations for this year?
This year, I mean, like we've got a goal, and that goal is to become at least a Midlands champion or
Yeah.
Southern area champion, so an area title. So that would be the goal as a minimum.
Yeah.
And like we're shackled by potential restrictions. We don't know what's going to go on,
Yeah.
but we know that if an opportunity pops up, I'm willing to take it. So, for example, any shows, like if there's a pullout. Oh,
Yeah.
so I'm back with you.
Sorry, yeah, cut out then.
If there's 20% battery notification. Should have charged the phone. But would be good. But yeah, like we know that we're shackled by some of the restrictions. We don't know what's going to go on with COVID, but we know the team's put in place a route in which I can fight for an area title.
Yeah.
That's going to be the minimum. But, and I say this, and I put all promoters on notice, the diamond's ready at any point for any of your boys. And I truly believe that, I mean, in the light middleweight division, I can make a noise. And you have to be a risk taker. You have to believe you're going to win. What's the worst that can happen? Bernard Hopkins lost his first professional fight. He went on to be the greatest or one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. I'm 2-0, but like I ain't afraid for that to go. I will fight anybody. And like,
I like that. You've got a really, really positive attitude, and very, very philosophical, and you're forward thinking as well, which is definitely what we need. So you said we've got to get back to boxing, because I could.
Yeah, we've got to get back to boxing.
Yeah. You said that you want to be able to get an area title. How many fights do you think that you'll actually have this year, COVID willing? Because that's what we're all hanging on at the moment. So
if I need to have 4 fights this year, and that like by hook or by crook, I'm going to get those. Like I'm going to put myself in position, and if it gets to a point where I just have to really start being more overt with what I'm doing, start actually calling out specific names, not because I have any sort of personal animosity, but just because I know it builds a story for promoters to push. Then I'll start doing so.
Who have you got your eye on at the moment then?
Anyone in the light middleweight division. I mean, like the super middleweight division, I should say. Oh, sorry, light middleweight division. God, I'm putting myself. Actually, do you know what? All of them divisions. But no, the light middleweight division. So you've got Scott Fitzgerald. You've got that he's brilliant. He is. I really rate him. He's a bit of a mad guy, but he sits pretty much at the top of domestic level fighters with the likes of Anthony Fowler. You've got the Hamza Shariz, really talented, tall. I think he's like 6'2", 6'3", got silky skills. So they're like the top guys, and like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not ignorant. I know that they're a level above me right now, especially in experience. I'm not deluded, but I'm willing to take that step. I'm willing to find out if I've got the goods, and I'll win or I learn. But I've got like, my option is to win. Yeah. And so if I have to take those fights, I will. Ideally, I would like the progressive steps. Yeah. But we're living in a non-ideal world. So how can I want ideal? So I'll like you. Sometimes you got to take what is given to you. You got to take the opportunity that's given to you. So anyone moving forward, I'd be willing to take. But the ideal opportunity is fight my first 6-rounder next, then fight maybe one other fight, and then a Midlands title fight, then maybe a bigger fight that gets me ranked for the English title, and take the necessary steps. That's the ideal situation, but we don't live in an ideal world, so whatever comes my way, I'm going to be ready for. Have you set out like a strategy to achieve those goals then? Yeah, we set out a strategy as a team, and again, we set out the ideal strategy, and it pretty much looks like how I described it. But here's where I take my own initiative. It's like, okay, the management team behind the scenes has got this strategy. We're going to fight on these shows, COVID permitting. But if it doesn't happen, what can we do? What do we do? We're like the human race is the reason why the human race is the strongest and most dominant race on the planet in a way that we've evolutionized into Homo sapiens is because of our ability to adapt. Like when we were back in the Paleolithic era, we wasn't the strongest, we wasn't the smartest animals on the planet. There was saber-toothed tigers. There was other creatures such as dolphins, which were much smarter than ourselves. But why did we evolve into the most dominant creatures on the planet? Because of our ability to adapt. Mm-hmm. I will adapt to my times. The strongest survive. Those who are willing to adapt to their environment, which is now this COVID environment, the ones that adapt the strongest will survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Good, really good way of looking at stuff, and to make sure you get what you want out of this career. Because how old are you now?
27 years old, gonna be turning 28 in a couple of months. So that's why I'm not ignorant with it. I'm not. I know where I'm at. I'm 28 years old. Had an okay but limited amateur career. I've got skills, but not big exposure. So you need to understand where you're at in any walk of life. And so, if it was an ideal world, I'd be 22 years old, turning professional, getting baby stepped through, getting built up on a big promoter show. But we're not. But we're not in an ideal world. So we deal the hand that's given to us, and we make the best out of the hand. And don't get me wrong, you can still win a game with that deck.
Yeah, I was about to say, it depends how you look at things. Subjectively, that is from the ideal world that you see. But 27 years, 2-0 is not bad at all. I think probably you need to give yourself a little bit more credit.
No, I do.
We are in tough times, but I believe with the right mindset, the right exposure, the networking, just like I have been creeping into the DMs of everyone, asking for interviews. If you don't ask, you don't get, like you said. Closed mouths don't get fed. You can't rely on anybody to give you those handouts. If you want it, you've really got to work for it. So I think with that mindset, just keep that going, and I really believe that you won't go far wrong. No, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. And it's been brilliant. I wish you all the best in your career, and hopefully we can do this again. October Red on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And don't forget, at October Red, we stay ready. See, okay, ready.